Okay. Gotta be quick. Quick. Hopefully, hopefully this is better. Because I've gotten a couple complaints about the sound. Now, normally I film at like 1 in the morning when everybody's asleep. This time, not so much. Now it's 10:30. But people tend to come into my room around 10:30 because they're going to bed, saying goodnight and all that stuff. So I'm trying to do this quickly in the event that we constantly get interrupted. But it's also a couple of days late because I was lazy and tired. Okay. First things first, we're gonna notes more or less are in order this time, I think. God, I hope this is loud enough this time. It'd be really annoying if it wasn't. We had 3 storylines this episode, kind of intermingled with each other in interesting ways. But the first of which was Dolores' conversations with Bernard and sort of her evolution throughout the 3 episodes thus far. We can already see that his conversations are having an effect on her, and I feel like that effect is so heavily shown in the show that it has to be something of a misdirection. That it can't be that Bernard is the one who is necessarily influencing all these changes in her, because he seems to be surprised by what she is saying and how she is responding to him. And at the same time, so like my point is that I don't think he's the one who is sort of causing all of them to act in these to go against their own code and programming, like the woodcutter, right? One of the other storylines that the episode dealt with was the woodcutter who went off the reservation. He abandoned his storyline, and so they had to go retrieve him. But in comparison to that, you had Ford, who was treating them exactly like they are, which is robots. They're not people, so why would you cover one of them? Because he doesn't get cold, he has no modesty, it doesn't matter. But at the same time, Ford is also talking to Teddy about why he and Dolores never run away. And he's sort of introducing areas in the story that challenge parts of both Teddy's and Dolores' code. So, like, the reason Teddy can't run away with Dolores is because of his unwritten backstory. So Ford fills that in. So what then happens if Teddy kills Wyatt? Does the story then conclude where him and Dolores try and leave? Like, is that something that Ford is setting up? He also included a scene where Teddy teaches Dolores how to shoot, which she is unable to do until the end of the episode when something, maybe a safeguard or something in her code, is bypassed in order to allow her survival. Let's see here. Going through my notes. Yeah, so all these things are connected, and I think that the reason, like, it can't be so heavy-handed and it still be the truth, right? That's just too easy, and it seems, and the show feels like it's smarter than that. So I feel like there's more at play with both Bernard and Ford's motivations than they're letting on. So let me go through my notes. Yeah, stray host. The woodcutter symbol, I'm not sure how much that means. The symbol of Orion and the stars, the constellation. That might be something that pulls in later. Maybe it has to do with the maze the man in black is looking for, who we didn't see at all this episode, actually. But it obviously wasn't supposed to be there, and now it is, so it has to mean something. So one of the big things that we learned in this episode was about Arnold, who was Ford's partner in creating Westworld originally. And he's the one who sort of wanted them to become people, wanted them to become conscious and evolve and grow in ways that humans do. But they're robots. So he was never necessarily able to crack that area of the code. And then he died. And the company that owns Westworld, or the board or whatever, swept it under the rug, and Ford's name was the one that was pushed forward. In the episode, he claims that it was an accident, but that Arnold was always very careful. And so I think you're led to believe that Arnold committed suicide in some way. Not necessarily positive on that, but it's come out since from Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy that we won't be seeing really any of Arnold. So it's not that he's alive, just maybe that his death is perhaps more suspicious than we're led to believe. Who knows? But the reason that Arnold is important is because some of the hosts that are going off the reservation are in fact talking to him, talking about him. His name is coming up in places that it shouldn't, and so that perhaps the remnants of the old code that allow for conscious thought in the hosts is being accessed due to the reveries that were introduced in the first episode that allowed the hosts to access parts of their previous builds in order to build subconscious memories. That might all sound very complicated, but my hope is that the show will sort of streamline these explanations as episodes go on. Let's see here. I'm covering a lot of these by accident here already, so I don't need to go bullet point by bullet point. Yeah, the stray hosts talked about. Maeve remembers she's still getting flashes about seeing Teddy in the decontamination chamber. So she seems to be suffering from a lot of the same delusions that, they're obviously not delusions, but to her they are, that Dolores is suffering from. Because the big thing at the end of the episode is that not only does she shoot her attacker with the gun, but she also starts remembering her father's, the original host that was her father's compared to the one that is now. Things are getting corrupted in her mind, and she's obviously freaking out. And so it'll be interesting to see where that all goes, because she meets up with Mike at the end of the episode. And the only interesting thing that happened, and I only had 2 scenes in the whole thing, was that he finally killed somebody. So, and it was him pulling a heroic stunt. I mean, they literally couldn't, position him and his friend as more opposite characters. I mean, Mike literally wears a white hat, and his friend, whose name I can't remember for the life of me, is dressed in all black. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the two of them become at odds at some point. My assumption is that humans can't kill each other within Westworld, but I don't know if that's also ever been tried. I'm sure it has. But the only other thing worth noting is the woodcutter. We already talked about the symbol and stuff, but it was kind of obvious that he was going to come back online and override his sleep code when the security guard was cutting into his neck and stuff. But what was interesting was sort of his reaction to that, which was to, first ignore it and then to bash his own skull in with a rock. And I don't know if that was because he needed to hurt somebody, and the codes that are in place for him to not hurt people were too strong, and so he just had to hurt himself. But it is interesting that was sort of the outcome of that. And so now it's more and more of this stuff is happening, and I'm wondering where the end game for this sort of is. The amount of hosts malfunctioning and in the ways they're malfunctioning are beginning to snowball. And I mean, we're only 3 episodes in of 10, I believe. So we still have a bit of ways to go before the end of the season and sort of the culmination of all this. I just wonder how long they can keep the speed at which things are progressing. But yeah. So those are all my notes. Whoops. Open that page up a little bit more than I needed to. Yeah, hopefully this sounds better on this one. Maybe I'll find more quieter times so it can be a little bit louder. And yeah, next one shouldn't be as late. I'm going to try not to be nearly as lazy about recording these things. And so that way they don't show up days late. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys think, as well as how the audio is. Because a number of people on my second video commented that I was basically whispering. So my hope is that the microphone is picking up a lot more of this than it was the last time. But yeah, until next week.